As many of you are probably aware by now, there's a ton of Hogwarts Legacy footage floating around the internet. And although I didn't get to experience it myself, I am happy for those that did, and thank you for bringing us all this tasty footage. Now, most of the gameplay that I analyzed comes from T. Martin, MK Ice and Fire, and Hollow, and I'll leave links to their mostly non-commentary gameplay videos below in the video description. Let's jump right in. So perhaps one of the biggest reveals from all of this gameplay is that we now know that we will be able to swim in this game. It doesn't appear as if we can dive into the water and go down underneath, but at the very least, we can do the breaststroke like a pro. Now, I am happy that they added this because it does add to the open world exploration, and if we could only just walk up to the edge of bodies of water, it would take away from some of that open world freedom immersion. It would be nice to be able to dive down into the Black Lake and stuff like that, but I guess we'll take what we got because it could be worse. An important great spellcasting detail that I noticed is that we'll have the freedom to cast our spells whenever we want. You don't always need a target, so to say. So right here, you can see the player cast Revelio, which is an AoE secrets discovery type spell. And then we also have the player randomly shoot off a Levioso at the ground. And most importantly, and the coolest demonstration was right here in combat, we get a better look at this player going into this free aim mode. And this is a mode where you can actually aim your reticle at the intended target. It's not just tab targeting. Now, shortly after, the player goes back into that lock-on target mode, but it's great to know that we do have some free aim options to play around with. Since I just mentioned Revelio, we already knew that it reveals secrets and hidden items in an area. But it also seemingly reveals, actually not seemingly, we have evidence of it right here, all of the lootable objects that are also in that immediate area. As you can see right here, the coin purses become highlighted and all of the little chests on the ground, etc. Now this one may be a negative for some of you, and that is that some of the quests that you embark on in the game will kind of shut down the open world aspect of the game and funnel you into linearity, at least in terms of exploration. Now this quest right here, if you were to try to go off the beaten path, the game will give you a warning to return. Now there still seems to be a ton of open world exploration to be had, and when you're not in those particular quests, it looks like you still have quite a lot of free roam capabilities. But I did want to point this out because this is a detail that we have not known about until now. Moving on, there will be some mini-games in Hogwarts Legacy, and this particular game right here is called Summoner's Court. The objective is to accio your colored balls, well, as close to the edge of the court as possible. Now, you of course don't want your balls to fall off the playing field. You want your blue balls. The blue is the best place to set your balls. Now, the player with the most points or the bluest balls is of course going to be the winner here. It is pretty cool that they have some mini games, but I'm still kind of surprised that they didn't include the classics like Gobstones and Wizard's Chess. This mini game might be more so for the purpose of practicing your accios, perhaps. Now, we already knew that you could collect gatherables out in the open world, and this new gameplay showed us that all you got to do is click a button to pick them up. Now, the player picks up toadstool caps and leech juice, and it doesn't seem like it takes like any gathering time at all. Simply press square in this case, and then you can continue moving on. This next one isn't really a gameplay detail that can be seen, but it can be heard. Now, if you don't want your voice to sound a little bit robotic like it does in this video that I'm going to watch with you guys on ESO's channel,
doing out here?
Let's take a closer look.
They won't be happy to see us. Should we use disillusionment, a less discreet approach?
Hard to say from up here. Let's get a better lay of the land.
So I would encourage you to probably not use the pitch sliders in the character creation too much, and this may solve the problem.
Let's get a better lay of the land.
That sounded atrocious. Now, as someone who is familiar with playing around with audio, when you change the pitch of something, it almost always distorts the quality. So if you do care about having a crisper, cleaner protagonist voice and you don't want to sound like C3PO, I'd be very cautious with sliding that pitch slider around too much. You might have to settle for the more default sounding voice. I'm actually quite surprised that this is even in the game because it does sound really rough in some of the footage. Alohomora, the unlocking charm, has now been confirmed, even though we can already mostly tell that it was in the game. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't seem to always just simply magically unlock something like it does in the lore, but instead, at least in some cases, it brings you to a lock-picking type mechanic. As you can see here, you have to use your joysticks to rotate sparks and dials until both corresponding gears are activated. It's kind of confusing, not gonna lie. Now we'll have to see how the system turns out though. We may find ourselves wishing that things did just automatically unlock. After all of these new gameplay videos, I think we can confirm once again that the world is beautiful. Just look at it. It's not the best graphics you've ever seen in your life, but it's pretty darn good, and Avalanche seems to really have nailed the feel of the world, and this is confirmed more and more the more gameplay that we see. Now there's a lot of attention to detail in the trees and the leaves and the snow and the rocks and the surrounding mountains. I think this alone for Harry Potter nerds, and I'm included in that category, is enough to satisfy a big part of what many of us have been waiting for our entire lives in terms of Wizarding World video games. In this scene, we got to witness the disillusionment charm being cast on both the player and their companion, which in this case is Poppy Sweeting. I feel like this spell may require you to go down a certain talent path, because what's the point of invisibility potions if all of us have this disillusionment charm, which also lasts for an infinite amount of time, I'm told. But then again, perhaps we don't have the opportunity to learn this charm early on in the game and we have to rely on potions, or perhaps the invisibility potion actually makes you totally invisible. We did get to witness some of the stealth mechanics in action though, and this player does have the disillusionment charm active, but it doesn't guarantee that enemies won't notice you because you're not completely invisible. When the player enters into this poacher's cone of vision, which is not represented in the game, a meter will start to fill up on that poacher's head. You can see the little box right there, and even with the player having this charm active, they still have to quickly hide behind some barrels to avoid being detected. So the disillusionment charm seems to be useful in that it delays an enemy's ability to notice you but doesn't completely conceal you. If you are enjoying this video so far, I do appreciate you considering hitting that subscribe button. There's much more Hogwarts Legacy content to come. It appears as if this game will be using the golden galleons as its form of currency. I don't see any evidence of bronze nuts or silver sickles. Now, collecting gold will be part of the looting experience and process. As you can see, the player loots a poacher's chest right here, and then also finds a few coin purses. On the topic of loot, we got to see that there are a decent amount of lootable objects in the environment. This little box right here gave the player a periwinkle hat. Of course, we expected looting to be like this, but I guess it's nice to see it in action. And yeah, it seems like it may be worth checking out all of the lootable items that are out there in the world. For quest markers, this mostly confirms that the majority of quests will have specific markers telling you exactly where you need to go. This doesn't mean that the game will solve puzzles for you, etc., but it doesn't look like getting lost on a quest is really going to be a thing unless you're able to turn these quest markers off. I know that we can turn off the mini-map, but I'm not sure about these yellow quest markers. We also learned that you can turn on this magical golden streak, kind of like the yellow brick road, that will literally guide you to exactly where you need to go. I did hear that we can turn this one on and off though, and thank Merlin for that. Reparo is now confirmed as a learnable spell that will be able to be slotted on our spell diamonds. We did see this spell in action before in one of the gameplay reveal, or the gameplay reveal, the state of play gameplay reveal, but it was being cast by Professor Fig. And right here, you can see the player using Reparo to repair a bridge that they just destroyed with an ignitable barrel. Surprise, Animagi will be in this game, which are witches or wizards that can transform into animals and back again into humans at will. I'm not sure if we, the players, will be able to become one, but we did get to witness this poacher right here turn into a wolf. The Perkins tent from the Harry Potter books and movies will be in the game, but not actually the Perkins tent, but magical tents that have been charmed on the outside to look like normal tents, but on the inside they can be these huge areas. And in this case, inside the tent is a dragon fighting ring. NPCs will be having their own conversations, and if you're quiet and stealthy, you can listen in and gather some more information on the current ongoings of the Wizarding World and of course some lore.
Sickens me to work alongside any of them. Don't know how Ramrock's stomach's being near Rookwood. Foul beast.
Now, because of my love for the Wizarding World and the Harry Potter books, I do plan on eavesdropping on as many of these conversations as I possibly can. Petrificus Totalis is going to be a prompt spell in the game. Now, I'm not sure if it will also be on the spell Diamond, maybe, but you will notice that when you stealth up behind an enemy, a button will then pop up, or a prompt for you to press a button will pop up, allowing you to cast Petrificus Totalis at the push of a button. This is kind of like a mechanic that's similar to, or a friendlier version version of a mechanic that's similar to assassinating a target in other games, but I guess it could be even more brutal if you use this with an enemy that's standing up against a really rocky cliff and then they fall off and their body gets splattered into the ground and there's blood everywhere. There seems to be a decent amount of interactable objects in the environment, and many of these are little puzzles, and if you cast the correct spell, you may find yourself being rewarded with something such as field guide pages. There will be a chill, kinda lax type stance that you can take while you're on your broomstick, and this will allow you to just cruise around at a slow speed, enjoying the scenery without going into firebolt mode. Now, you cannot cast spells on students at school, unfortunately, at least not when you're in the open world free roam mode. I figured that this was going to be the case with this game. And right here you can see MK Fire and Ice trying to cast Incendio on a student walking by, and it does absolutely nothing. It doesn't even phase the student. It didn't seem likely that this would be a game where you can murder hobo every character around, but now that is officially confirmed. We already pretty much knew this one because it was said before, but we've never seen it in pure gameplay form. But yes, we can hop on our broomstick and just fly all over the Hogwarts grounds. We did get that previous gameplay showcase where the player flies around the countryside, but now we can see the castle itself. And this is something I have personally been the most excited for, and it looks like Avalanche has done a good job in this department. You also cannot, at least I don't think you can, smash into buildings on your broomstick. It looks like in Hollow's footage right here, the game puts up an invisible force field and it kind of redirects his character away from the wall. This would have been a really cool mechanic, not gonna lie, but we do have to remind ourselves that this game is kind of being made for the masses, so, you know, smashing your brains onto a castle wall might not be for everyone. The library at the castle is kind of new gameplay wise, but we did see a little very short Twitter preview a few days ago. But you have this large central room and then a ton of rooms branching off with study areas and of course plenty of books and bookshelves. There's also the upper area of the library, but I'm not entirely sure where the restricted section is. I'm gonna have to recheck the lore to see where it is said to be in the books. Now, it doesn't seem like there's a lot to do here, though, as I don't see really hardly any interactables or things of that nature, but I'm sure that our story will at least have us come here for a few quests. We also got to see some of the greenhouses for the first time in their pure gameplay form, and man, I got to admit, the inside of many of these buildings is really, really beautiful. Lumos, a spell that pretty much everyone knows, will be used for more than just lighting up dark areas, as right here you can see the player casting Lumos to reveal a secret painting, and then also using Lumos to guide this enchanted moth figurine back to the painting's frame. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Harry Potter Lego games where you go around casting all sorts of spells to try to solve puzzles and reveal secrets. And that will be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Much more Hogwarts Legacy content to come, and I do have a Hogwarts Legacy playlist on this channel. Oh man, my phone. If you'd like to binge watch a few other Hogwarts Legacy videos, and I'll catch you all on the next one.